Owen Hart has tragically died from that accident here tonight.
Mauled by coyotes, decapitated by a helicopter blade during a film shoot, deadly peritonitis from swallowing a toothpick. Some stars leave this world in ways so unexpected, so eerily ironic, that it almost feels like fate was playing a cruel joke. One moment, they're basking in the spotlight, larger than life. The next, gone. Claimed by accidents so strange they feel like deleted scenes from Final Destination.
He had a curiosity that with most people degrades over time.
These are the weirdest celebrity deaths ever recorded.
First thing I consciously said to my folks, I want to do this. I want to make movies.
Anton Yelchin was on the cusp of something extraordinary. A gifted actor with a quiet intensity and wry charm, he had already carved a space in Hollywood with roles that lingered. None more iconic than Pavel Chekhov in the Star Trek reboot.
Russian whiz kid, what's your name? Chanko? Cherpov?
Ensign Chekhov, Pavel Andreevich, sir.
But on June 19, 2016, his rising star was extinguished in a moment too strange, too cruel to comprehend. At just 27, Yelchin died in a freak accident outside his Los Angeles home, pinned by his own SUV, one later recalled for a faulty gear shift that confused even seasoned drivers. He had stepped out to check his mailbox. The car slipped into motion. He never had a chance. Star Trek Beyond, released weeks later, bore his name in solemn tribute.
Can you get this thing started?
Are you intimating the tuition? Engage the thrusters?
I am open to other suggestions.
Okay.
And though his time was brief, Anton left behind a body of work and a warmth that won't be forgotten. His story is a reminder. Brilliance can be fleeting, but impact endures.
When he was little, every day he would write cards. Dear Mommy, I love you so very much. Love, Antosha.
Brandon Lee was born into legend but was carving his own. With a magnetic screen presence and raw physicality, he was more than Bruce Lee's son. He was a rising star, poised to leave his own mark. The Crow was meant to be his breakout, a gothic revenge tale where he played Eric Draven, a man returned from the dead.
But sometimes, just sometimes, the Crow could bring that soul back to put the wrong things right.
The role was haunting. What happened behind the scenes, even more so. On March 31st, 1993, while filming a pivotal scene in Wilmington, North Carolina, Brandon was fatally shot due to a catastrophic prop gun mishap. A dummy round lodged in the barrel, fired by a blank. The bullet struck him in the abdomen. He never regained consciousness. He was 28 weeks from marrying his fiancée, days from finishing the film that would define his legacy. In The Crow, Draven rises from the grave. In life, Brandon never got that chance. The eerie symmetry between his final scene and final moments is almost unbearable to watch. Art imitating death in the cruelest way. Like his father, Brandon's life ended far too soon, sparking talk of a curse. But what remains isn't a myth. It's the performance, the presence, the promise, frozen in time, forever unforgettable. David Carradine was the embodiment of mystery, his voice calm, his presence electric. As Kwai Chang Caine in Kung Fu, he became a symbol of quiet power and philosophical grace, a man who walked through danger with bare feet and an unshakable soul. But the actor who so often played seekers of truth died in a story stranger than fiction. On June 3, 2009, in a luxury Bangkok hotel, Carradine was found hanging in his closet, naked, bound, and lifeless. No note, no clear answers. What was first suspected as suicide quickly unraveled into something darker, more disturbing.
Clark Kent is Superman's critique on the whole human race.
Authorities leaned toward accidental death by autoerotic asphyxiation. Others, including independent experts, weren't so sure. The bindings were too elaborate. The inconsistencies are too glaring. Whispers of foul play refused to die. In life, he played men who searched for meaning. In death, he became a riddle no one could solve. Over 200 roles, a legacy of depth and danger, and a final act still cloaked in shadows. David Carradine didn't just live a mysterious life, he embodied it. He escaped chains, coffins, even the depths of water tanks, but not fate. Harry Houdini, born Eric Weiss, built a legacy on defying death. A master of illusion and escape, he thrilled the world with feats no one else dared attempt. Yet it was a simple, unprepared blow to the stomach that began his final act. In October 1926, after a college student punched him backstage, testing Houdini's rumored invincibility, he brushed off the pain. Unknown to him, his appendix was already inflamed. He performed through agony, fever, and a broken ankle, famously vowing, "I'll do this show if it's my last." It was. Days later, on Halloween, Houdini died from peritonitis at 52. The great debunker of seances and spirits, gone in a way still wrapped in speculation. The irony lingers. A man who spent his life exposing false afterlives, dying on the one night the world believes the veil is thinnest. She didn't just perform, she floated, barefoot and fearless, across every stage she touched. Born in 1877, Isadora Duncan defied the rigid rules of ballet and became the mother of modern dance, her movements as fluid and unpredictable as life itself. She turned pain into art, but her own story was marked by devastating sorrow. In 1913, her two children, Deirdre and Patrick, were killed in a freak accident in Paris. The car they were in, along with their nanny, rolled into the Seine after the chauffeur left the engine running while trying to hand crank it. Isadora was shattered, yet she kept dancing, chasing some kind of healing through movement. Then came that warm evening in Nice, 1927. Her long red silk scarf, a gift from a friend and signature to her bohemian style, became entangled in the rear axle of a convertible. It snapped her neck and threw her from the car in an instant. The final twist of fate was as dramatic as any of her performances. Rest easy, Isadora. John Eric Hexom had it all: charm, talent, and a future that seemed unstoppable. With breakout roles in Voyagers and Cover Up, he was Hollywood's rising star, just 27 and on the verge of lasting fame. Then, in a split second of tragic misjudgment, everything changed. On October 12, 1984, during a lull on set, Hexom picked up a prop gun loaded with blanks. Joking about production delays, he held it to his temple and pulled the trigger. The blast, though bulletless, carried deadly force, fracturing his skull and driving bone into his brain. He never regained consciousness. 6 days later, on October 18th, he was declared brain dead. His death shocked the industry and reshaped on-set safety standards. But Hexom's story didn't end there. In a final act of grace, his organs were donated. His heart, kidneys, eyes, and skin saving or healing multiple lives. Gone too soon, yet still giving. John Eric Hexom's light burned bright, and in the most unexpected way, it never fully went out. Owen Hart was more than a wrestler. He was a craftsman, a prankster, a beloved brother in and out of the ring. As the Rocket and later the absurdly endearing Blue Blazer, he brought both athletic brilliance and comic timing to a world built on spectacle. But on May 23, 1999, during a live WWE pay-per-view event, that spectacle turned deadly. Lowered from the rafters for a staged superhero entrance, Owen fell 78 feet after a harness malfunction triggered too soon. He struck the ring ropes chest first. Seconds earlier, his final words, "Look out!" were shouted to save a referee beneath him. He died minutes later at just 34. The fall wasn't shown on camera, but the silence that followed was deafening. Despite knowing his fate, WWF chose to continue the event, a decision still debated in wrestling lore. Owen's death shattered a sport too often blind to its own dangers, yet even in tragedy, he left behind something powerful, a legacy of heart, humor, and humanity. Not just a fallen star, but a reminder of the cost behind the curtain and a name forever cherished in wrestling's most sacred halls. Rest in peace, Owen.
I've been put on this planet to protect wildlife and wilderness areas, which in essence is going to help humanity.
He wrestled crocodiles, cradled cobras, and stared down danger with a grin. Steve Irwin, the larger-than-life crocodile hunter, made the wild feel wondrous. His boundless energy and unshakable love for nature turned a khaki uniform into a symbol of fearless conservation. To the world, he was fearless, invincible. But on September 4th, 2006, nature took him in the most unlikely way. Filming in shallow waters off Bat Reef, Irwin approached a stingray, gentle, unthreatening. In a freak moment, it struck, a barb to the chest, a direct hit to the heart.
And we're saying to him things like, "Think of your kid, Steve, hang on, hang on, hang on." And he just sort of calmly looked up at me and said, "I'm dying." And that was the last thing he said.
He was gone at 44, not a crocodile, not a venomous snake, a rare, tragic twist of fate. His death stunned the world, but his legacy roars on. Through his family, his zoo, and the millions he inspired, Irwin's mission lives. Protect the wild, love it fiercely, and never turn away from wonder. Taylor Mitchell was just 19, a voice full of promise, a name quietly rising through Canada's folk scene. Her debut album, For Your Consideration, hinted at something rare, a young artist with the soul of an old poet. But on a quiet October afternoon in 2009, that promise was silenced in one of nature's rarest and most tragic encounters. While hiking alone on Cape Breton's Skyline Trail, a place she once called beautiful, Mitchell was attacked by 2 eastern coyotes. Typically shy, the animals turned inexplicably aggressive. Hikers nearby heard screams. Help came, but not in time. She died the next morning from her injuries, leaving behind an unfinished journey and a stunned community. The attack was as baffling as it was heartbreaking, a freak incident in a world she loved. And though her time was brief, Taylor Mitchell's voice, her words, and the quiet force of her artistry linger. A life and talent taken too soon, echoing now like a song cut short. Hollywood's all about illusion, but on July 23, 1982, that illusion turned deadly. Vic Marorrow, the tough, battle-worn actor we knew from Combat, and the Blackboard Jungle had faced fictional wars for decades. But nothing on set ever felt as real, or as horrific, as what happened during the filming of Twilight Zone, the movie. Born in 1929, Marorrow carved out a career playing men hardened by fire. Sergeant Saunders in Combat made him a household name. He was the guy who always made it out alive. But in his final role, he played a racist transported through time to experience hate from the other side. The climax was meant to be redemptive, his character rescuing 2 Vietnamese children from a burning village, a helicopter hovering overhead. Then, disaster. Pyrotechnics triggered too close to the low-flying chopper sent it crashing. The rotor blades struck Marorrow and the 2 child actors, Micah Din Le and Renee Shin Yi Chen. All 3 were killed instantly. It was one of the darkest moments in film history. Vic Marorrow had always survived the story, but this time, the story betrayed him. Gone far too soon. His legacy forever caught between action and tragedy. Some deaths are tragic, others are eerie. But these feel scripted, like scenes from a movie no one wanted to be in. One moment, they were living legends. The next, their names became headlines, their final moments the stuff of Hollywood myth. But was it just bad luck? A cruel twist of fate? Or does life sometimes mirror the darkest corners of fiction? Which of these stories shocked you the most? And do you know of any even stranger celebrity deaths? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that prove truth is sometimes stranger than fiction.